Welcome to the Nevis newscast for Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. I'm Fredicia Liebert. The Nevis Animals Trespass and Pound Amendment Bill 2020 passed unanimously in the Thursday, July 2nd sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly. The ordinance makes provision respecting straying and trespassing animals for the impounding and disposal of the same and for matters incidental thereto and connected therewith.
Currently in the existing ordinance, we see animal to mean horse, mule, donkey, pig, goat, or sheep. And those are the animals that it covers up to that point. But what we are proposing, which is not captured in the principal ordinance, is to add animals such as dog and monkey, where any animal cannot be impounded under subsection 1, which we dealt with. It shall be lawful for any authorized person to shoot the said animal. It shall be lawful for any proprietor or any person authorized by any proprietor to shoot any animal or feather stock found trespassing upon his property and doing actual damage thereon.
The amendment to Section 13 of the ordinance speaks to the powers of the Director of Agriculture.
The Director of Agriculture may seize any animal or feathered stock and detain it in order to ascertain whether an offense under this ordinance is being or has been committed, and may enter any premises for the purposes of such seizure and detention. The Director of Agriculture may enter any premises for the purpose of preventing or ending an attack of any animal on any person or any property. The Director of Agriculture, in exercising a power of entry into any premises under this ordinance, may bring with him into such premises such other persons as he believes to be necessary for the purpose of assisting him in exercising or in exercise of his powers and functions under this ordinance. And the Director of Agriculture and any such other person may take with them into the premises such equipment as they consider to be necessary. Any person who obstructs or impedes the Director of Agriculture in the exercise of his functions under this ordinance shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $5,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 months, or at the discretion of the court to both such fine and such imprisonment.
Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, was the mover of the bill. During the debate, the Honorable Eric Evelyn made his contribution in support of the Nevis Animals Trespass and Pound Amendment Bill 2020, citing his experiences as a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. Thursday's sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly was the second for the year 2020. Calypsonians, Soca artists, and music producers are being given the opportunity to create the sound of Nevis through their participation in the Nevis Song Competition. The contest is a collaboration between the Nevis Tourism Authority and the Nevis Culturama Secretariat.
And this competition was derived from a concept that came from a meeting that we had. There were some songs that were Nevis specific in the past, and we thought it would be great to give it a fresh spin. It would help us kind of market in the destination. We want to encourage musicians, creatives, really and truly. I think music is a part of culture. Culture is very important to the destination, and I think that can be seen globally. We've seen that in many cases, like Bob Marley in Jamaica, and how the connection has been made. So we wanted to also connect creatives with outside producers and artists. So we are actually, one of the prizes would be, if it's a soca or a calypso, they would be able to be featured on a rhythm of a regional producer, and we think that would be pretty cool to kind of show some kind of collaboration that we think is important to kind of raise the profile of Nevis as a destination.
Jadine Yard is the CEO of the Nevis Tourism Authority, while Antonia Liburd is the Executive Director of the Culturama Secretariat.
All participants must be Nevisians either by birth or by descent, or nationals who have resided in Nevis for not less than 12 months before entering the competition. Participants must be 16 years and above, and the persons who enter this competition, they must make themselves available to meet all the commitments and responsibilities that may be required of the winner of the competition. Let's suppose the NTA or Culturama embarks upon an overseas promotion and want to have the song being performed live. That person must be available to travel and to be a part of the promotional team.
All entries must be submitted on CD to the Nevis Tourism Authority at the A.L. Evelyn Building in Charlestown by 4 p.m. on July 24th, 2020, or emailed in MP3 format to info@nevisisland.com.
Participants are to submit their songs as a solo performer. Caribbean elements such as the fife, the steel pan, African drums, and any other such elements can be incorporated into the song. Now, the song must have a minimum of 2 verses and 2 choruses. The song must be no longer than 3.5 minutes. We said 3.5 minutes, but we would accept songs up to 4 minutes. The musical accompaniment for the song must consist of a blend of at least 5 of the following instruments: drums, percussions, piano, bass guitar, rhythm guitar, synthesizers, strings, lead vocals, and backing vocals that are well balanced, well blended into a professional or semi-professional final product. Now, the song must be produced utilizing the musical skills or talents of local producers. The singer's vocals must be audible. The use of positive, uplifting lyrics would also be a plus.
Liburd encouraged the participants to be creative.
The lyrics, melody, and musical arrangements of the song must be original. The songs must be original and must not have been entered in any previously organized contest. Rule 12 says the song should not have been previously released on any platform.
The winner of the competition, who will be announced on July 31st, 2020, will earn a $5,000 award, among other incentives. For more information on the Nevis Song Competition, visit the Nevis Tourism Authority's website, nevisisland.com, or the Culturama Secretariat's website, culturamanevis.com. Minister of Labour, the Honourable Spencer Brand, on Thursday, July 2nd, provided an update with regard to applications for the COVID-19 Relief Fund offered by the St. Christopher and Nevis Social Security Board. He was speaking during statements by ministers at the sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly.
Under the period March to June, Mr. President, we have seen some 1,610 persons making application, and those persons, Mr. President, were persons who are registered with Social Security. And I want to make a distinction, Mr. President, because there are self-employed persons and there are persons who are otherwise registered with Social Security. And these, Mr. President, were persons who were registered with Social Security. 1,610 persons who would have applied, Mr. President. And when you look a little closer, Mr. President, you would see in the service sector, there were 350 persons. In the hotel and guest house sector, we saw 335 persons. In the construction sector, Mr. President, we saw 280 persons. In the commercial sector, we saw 250 persons. In the restaurant, we saw 226.
Meantime, according to Minister Brand, some 286 applications were made by self-employed persons.
These are persons who have their own business and are registered with Social Security as self-employed individuals. In the service sector, Mr. President, we saw some 132 persons. In agriculture, we saw 19 persons. In the commercial sector, we saw 29 persons. And in the construction sector, Mr. President, we saw 30 persons. Hence, once again, Mr. President, our service sectors were hardest hit. Mr. President, I want to use this platform to say to our people who are working for themselves that it is absolutely critical to get themselves registered as a self-employed persons with Social Security. It therefore means, Mr. President, that if they are registered with Social Security as a self-employed individual, that they can benefit in times of crisis. And I want to encourage them to do so.
Persons whose income has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic can apply for under the COVID-19 Relief Fund to receive a grant of up to $1,000 monthly. The reopening of early childhood centers in St. Kitts and Nevis will be on a case-by-case basis. That announcement was made by Kimona Brown, director of the Early Childhood Development Unit, who says the unit intends to take a proactive and informed approach towards the reopening of early childhood development centers.
The proprietors of each facility would have to apply to the Early Childhood Development Unit to start the process and work towards being approved for reopening. 2. Proprietors and supervisors of nurseries and preschools are asked to contact the Early Childhood Development Unit at 466-2810 for guidance on the application process for the review of their facilities in light of the COVID-19 safety requirements. 3. Once an early childhood facility has been checked and determined to be compliant with the new safety and health protocols for the early childhood sector, then that nursery or center would be able to secure approval for reopening.
The Ministry of Education, according to Brown, continues to work towards concretizing the recommendations made by the National COVID-19 Task Force.
The Early Childhood Development Unit has committed to the following on the road to the reopening of the early childhood development sector. 1. Develop guidelines for the reopening of early childhood facilities that are relevant to staff, parents, and children. 2. Make centers accountable in attaining existing minimum standards and implementing the COVID-19 standards. 3. Determine and implement an application process for reopening of all early childhood centers. 4. Develop a sensitization plan for early childhood development staff on COVID-19 health and hygiene.
Brown says the Ministry of Education welcomes the financial and in-kind assistance of stakeholders to support the most vulnerable in the early childhood sector. Coming up in the regional news segment, phased reopening of Guyana's International Airport pushed back to August 1st. The details right after this break.